What's going on, everyone? Welcome to a new episode of Mostly Wrong Opinions. I am Tyrone, that is Devin, and we have a awesome movie to talk about today. This time, it's Spider-Man 2.
So where you been, pal? You don't return my calls.
I've been kind of busy.
Taking pictures of your friend? Spider-Man killed my father.
No matter what I do,
Do you love me or not?
no matter how hard I try,
I want Spider-Man dead.
it's the ones I love who will always be the ones who pay.
I can't keep thinking about you. I'm getting married.
I want a life of my own. I'm Spider-Man. No more.
Spider-Man 2 was directed by one of my movie heroes, Sam Raimi. We all know this. If you've seen previous episodes here, I love this man.
Yeah, Tyrone loves Sam Raimi. We know this.
Okay. And this film came out in 2004, and it is held as one of the, if not the best superhero movie of all time, really.
Yeah, it is.
Because
still to this day. Yeah.
Still to this day.
Yeah, almost 20 years.
We haven't seen the new Spider-Man yet.
Not yet, but it's coming up real soon.
It might beat it, but who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
But this film, when I saw it then, I didn't understand the like I was there for Spider-Man, right? But now when I look back at it, I'm like, this has so many adult themes in this on like being a coming of age adult when you're coming into the world and you're trying to find yourself, and it's wrapped in like a nice and neat Spider-Man package, you know?
Yeah.
And as I watch it now, I'm like, yo, I feel for this dude, because right now I got light bills due, I got gas bills due. You know, somebody doesn't want to talk to me somewhere. You know, it's just a lot of stuff that gets on you when you're, an adult. So, and this is where Peter is starting his semester of college, and he's trying to balance work. He's trying to balance college. He's trying to balance the the fact that Aunt May is about to have their house foreclosed. He's trying to balance that Harry still is upset. All type of stuff.
And all of this while he tries to balance Spider-Man. Like, and I think that's one of the things that I was really struck about watching this film almost 20 years later. The lack of Spider-Man. Like this really should just be called Peter Parker. Like this movie is all about Peter. And I like you said, I don't think I quite understood how deep and how, mature this film was. This was almost like a character study. Like this was all about Peter, to the point where I think maybe the one knock on the film might be the Spider-Man stuff. It kind of felt like it got in the way a little bit. Like I felt like all the drama was around Peter and around his life. And I liked how he struggled so much trying to balance these two halves of himself, right? He's trying to balance his life as Spider-Man, trying to balance his life as Peter Parker. And he just cannot do it. And my gosh, do you hurt for this guy? I was really impressed by this film.
I think that's what makes Marvel characters, specifically Spider-Man, so relatable. He has so much responsibility to where he's fighting. There's a part in the movie where you get into the movie where all the stuff is happening against him, from the stuff that's happening with MJ, him missing this thing with MJ, and she's all mad, and the fact that his rent is due, and the little freaking dude that looks like a weasel across from him is like, he's like, don't sneak past me. He's like, rent? Every single time he comes up the stairs and everything.
I have the eyes of a rodent.
You have the face of one too.
Yeah, for real. Rewatching this film, it really aged quite beautifully. And I think it probably ages really well as you age, because the experiences. I mean, we don't physically age. You know what I'm saying? We both look incredible, but technically, I'm older or whatever.
We were in high school when this came out. So
Anyway, but yeah, it's not a secret. We both look old. But anyway, like I think the movie ages with you because of its adult and like mature themes, and I really enjoyed that crazy balancing act that Peter had to play, trying to be both Peter Parker and Spider-Man. And there's one point in the film where you're like, just stop, just don't be Spider-Man anymore. Just like, don't be late, just don't. And then the movie almost looks you right in the eye, and he's like, I'm gonna stop being Spider-Man. You're like, exactly. Oh shit, and he does. And it turns out this doesn't work either. He's got to find that perfect balance. And like, that's something I never really caught that balancing act as a kid. And as an adult, it just like screamed in my face, and I really liked it. Like this battle between like your public self and your private self. You know, like or maybe if you go to work or something, like your professional self and your private self or something like that. You know, I really enjoyed that, and it really carried the film big time for me.
You know, there's a lot of stuff within this world is all practical. There's barely any CG within. The only CG it is on the character itself, but everything when it comes to the world itself, everything's just built there.
Yeah, and that's another thing that really struck me was how well the effects stood up. And because a lot of the effects, like you said, especially around Dr. Octopus, are practical. There's some puppeteering his arms the whole time, and it looks great. It doesn't have that weird like CGI glow that a lot of think about like the Star Wars prequels or something like that.
Ooh, boy.
I mean, they look like hot garbage, and they came out around the same time. So, and this movie aged quite nicely. Also, I think the reason why the effects look good is, again, to your point, Tyrone, they were kind of limited. Once again, there's not a lot of Spider-Man in this film. There's a lot of Peter Parker. And so because of that, Peter Parker is usually on a set. He's usually in a kitchen or somewhere real or on a street, and you can feel it. You can feel like there's a word I don't like to use when describing films, but I'm gonna use it here. You can feel like the grittiness of New York, of the world around him. Okay. I don't throw that word around too often because I feel like it gets used too much and it's abused.
Gritty.
Yeah, no, you think of like Batman or something. But when I think of gritty, I think of like something tangible. Something real. Like if I could reach to the film, I feel like my hand would hit something. You know what I mean? Unlike say literally any other Marvel film, right? I feel like my hand would pass through because it's some kind of CGI extravaganza, you know?
Yeah.
This one feels so much more grounded, and he feels like your neighborhood Spider-Man. Like I really enjoyed this film.
Now, when this film does kick up with the action, man, it kicks up heavy. I remember when the trailer came out, my mouth dropped to the floor, man, when I saw that car come to that coffee shop. I was
yeah. My mouth still hit the floor this time. I knew it was coming. And I was like, yeah, it was incredible. And you know what made it even incredible within the context of the film is because that's at that point in the film, that's when Peter had lost all his powers, right? He was at his weakest, right? And it was at that point, Mary Jane was like, look, I need you to straight up tell me, do you love me or not? I need you to tell me. And now he's like, do I tell the truth? Do I become my true self? And he's like, no. And you're like, what? Peter, what are you doing? Boom! You're like, oh! like it was this like tender moment that just was like horribly interrupted, you know? And it's still, the impact was great.
Wait a minute. It's when you said that, it's like, man, it flashed back to what are we gonna do with this town and this Western thing?
That's right. Yeah,
blow up everything. Interrupt your movie with something that just blows up things. But this time, this was not written by no damn Josh Whedon. So this was calculated to perfection.
You can tell that the people who wrote this film, the people who acted this film, I think they felt a certain. I think they could see themselves in Peter Parker because it felt personal. It felt personal, you know, like this like battle between your two halves, and I liked how throughout the film, Peter Parker is constantly lying. You know, he's always saying, "Oh, I'm sorry. There's a disturbance. Or I guess I'm lazy. I don't know." He's constantly lying about it.
There's always a disturbance.
Yeah, right. He's always lying about his whereabouts, and he's having a hard time keeping this lie up. And the people around him are starting to become suspicious. They're like, "Are you sure?" And you can tell that Mary Jane kind of knows. You can tell that Robbie from the Bugle kind of knows. And then there's that scene later in the film with Aunt May where she talks about how we're Spider-Man. The world needs a hero. And you can tell that she's pieced it together. And you're like, oh, you can feel like that like choking. You're like, oh, like they finally realize that Peter's not a lazy little shit, right? He's Spider-Man. He's got a larger responsibility, and that stuff I thought it was quite moving. I thought it was great. And to keep going on and on and on, a lot of that kind of small character moments, they're missing from a lot of movies. They from actually most movies I watch. You know, they're missing.
Is it missing from the newer Spider-Man?
The newer Spider-Man is different. He's not so much of an outcast, and one of the things I couldn't help but comparing was this and Homecoming, right? In Homecoming, Peter Parker, the thing that propelled the film was that Peter Parker was right? Peter Parker suspected the Vulture, he suspected all this stuff, but Iron Man was like, no, don't go, you're not ready. And it wasn't until the film, progresses that everybody realized, oh, Peter was right the whole time, right? In this movie, Peter's wrong all the time. He gets things mixed up. He's late for everything. He gets hit in the head by stuff. Like, he is wrong. He is truly a lost man. And you really want him to get right. You know what I mean? You're like, Peter, come on, get it together. But Tom Holland Spider-Man, he's already got it together. He's already a conventionally attractive guy. He's got the attention of the girl he likes in class. Like, it's very different. So that's not me slamming on Tom Holland. Actually, I really like him. Sam Raimi Spider-Man I'm surprised to even say this, is operating on a much higher level than I remembered him, and a higher level than the current MCU Spider-Man is operating on. Because
Sam Raimi is the GOAT. Okay.
Yo, you know what, Tyrone? I liked Sam Raimi, and I never really put it together like you did, how solid of a filmmaker he is. Like, this whole thing, this Mostly Wrong Opinions thing, has really opened my eyes to how fantastic of a filmmaker Sam Raimi is. You could tell there's true love.
I've been saying it all along.
You're right, man. You're right. This dude, and again, I've always liked him. I'm always like, yeah, sure, great. But just like after seeing his movies kind of like back to back like we have for this, like, incredible. Like, so it's the characters that he gets. It's the characters. It's not. He's like not shy about his characters. He's like, look, Peter Parker is a loser, and I'm gonna spend 2 hours
talking about how much of a loser he is.
That's right, beating the snot out of this man, and to the point where he's like crawling on the ground. He's literally holding his back. He's like, oh, my back, and then he touches the car, and the car alarm goes off. Like, it just, he cannot win, and that kind of laser focus on character. I love that. I love it. That's a great way to go straight to my heart. I love it.
And then we're gonna, go ahead and throw in, the damsel in distress when she gets captured and all that, and Otto is doing his villainy thing. But we're going to throw in to where Peter doesn't kill him.
Right. Otto learns about self-sacrifice. Yeah. The one thing that Peter learned a million years ago from Uncle Ben, taking responsibility for all that power you got. At the end, Otto, he gets it, and he's like, I will not die a monster. No. And he takes out his little science experiment. And it's one reason why Dr. Octopus has long been my favorite Spider-Man villain, because Dr. Octopus is Spider-Man. He's more spidery than Spider-Man is, right? He's got all these limbs and stuff. Yeah. And he's a science nerd, except he's missing one thing, and that's he didn't have an Uncle Ben. He didn't have someone to tell him that with great power comes great responsibility. He just kept doing everything he wanted. He didn't do the things that he needed to do. He just kept doing the things that he wanted to do. And this is what leads him into villainy. And we see this a little bit with Peter Parker after he loses his powers. He's like, look, I'm just going to be Peter Parker. I'm going to ignore that guy getting beat up in the alley. I'm going to ignore the sirens.
Well,
I'm going to keep going.
Eat a hot dog.
Yeah. And you can see this was the bad path. I'm going to keep going on. I'm sorry. But there's a really great scene right around that time where Peter Parker, he's got no powers and he's been ignoring all these terrible things in the city. But then there's a burning building and he's like, God damn it. I can't. Even though I don't have powers, I'm still me. So he runs into the building unpowered to save this little girl. And I'd forgotten about that scene. And I just thought that was such a great scene because that scene was all about character. It wasn't super actiony. It was all showing that Peter deep down is a good guy. And when he was pretending to not be a good guy, when he was ignoring those crimes, he was not being true to himself. And he is Spider-Man through and through, whether he's got the powers or not.
Or the suit.
Loved it. I was like, got me. Loved it.
My heart.
I forgot about all that stuff, man. It's been like almost 20 years since I've seen this film.
Bro,
amazing.
I'm telling you, because it's been a while since I watched this film also. But the thing is, man, now with this new Spider-Man movie coming out, they have a lot to live up to when it comes to, with every Spider-Man movie that came out, because we've always considered this to be the creme de la creme when it comes to Spider-Man. When Spider-Man 3 came out, we was like, hey, who's that?
Yeah. And it kind of sucks because this movie really sets up a great sequel. Like with Harry and all that stuff, it really sets up just an amazing sequel. And it sucks that Spider-Man 3 is not as great. It's not as bad as people say. But it's not that great. So that's really disappointing.
Well, who knows? Yeah. With all the rumors that's going on now when it comes to No Way Home coming out, they may have fixed things. Who knows? But also, talking about Spider-Man 3, I liked how this movie, Spider-Man 2, didn't fall into Spider-Man 3's trap because they had other characters who we knew turned into villains later on, like J. Jonah Jameson's son. We know he turns into a villain. We know Harry Osborn turns into a villain. Yeah. But instead of having the movie veer off course and show them go down some villainous course, it stayed laser focused on Peter. It just said, look, we'll do that later. Don't worry about it. We'll do it later. And I liked how they just kind of set all that stuff aside. Unfortunately, in Spider-Man 3, we had Harry Osborn as Green Goblin, we had Sandman, we had Venom. It was just too much, and the whole movie collapsed under itself. Right. A shame. Right. I don't think that No Way Home's going to go down that road of collapsing on itself, because the stuff that I've heard so far is that it's good. I mean, I haven't heard anything to where they're saying that this is the best Spider-Man film that beats out Spider-Man 2. I haven't heard that yet.
Yeah, it's possible. It's possible of course it's possible they can make a better film than Spider-Man 2. Of course, there are much better films than Spider-Man 2. But the fact that this film is just so solid, so good, and almost 20 years later, I keep saying that. Like, I just find that incredible. 17 years. And keep in mind that this budget was, I think it was like $204 million at the time, the most expensive film ever made, and almost no action. Like, seriously, think about the gorilla balls you gotta have to make that movie. Like, whoa, incredible. I wonder how much their pay cut was when it comes to being an actor in this thing. How much they got? Because if you're looking at, if it was the most expensive movie that was made, what did they spend their money on if it wasn't so much action and CG? I think it was all the practical effects. That's why there are no practical effects anymore, because they're expensive. You know what I mean? So that's why everything's CGI.
We're gonna go ahead and give our rating on this Spider-Man movie, and it's a gem, people. It's a classic. It's something that, if you haven't seen this film and you're a comic book fan, a Spider-Man fan, a fan of in-depth writing, a fan of in-depth character development, you need to see it.
Yeah, okay. and it totally holds up. The effects hold up. The story holds up. It all holds up. I'm really floored by how well this movie has aged. I was not expecting that.
Now the old me, when I was younger, when it comes to not enough action, I would have gave this movie like a 8. But because of who I am now and how I perceive films and loving dialogue and loving to see a character build and fall and rise, like like this character does, I'm giving this film a 9.5, man.
Tyrone, I'm right there with you. If you'd have talked to me back in 2004, I really loved this movie back then, but I loved it for different reasons than I do now. Like, I was really focused on the action. I was really focused on the way Spider-Man looked, or Tobey Maguire's voice. I thought it was kind of squeaky and all that stuff now. Mm-hmm. But watching it now, I'm with you. I have been waffling between a 9 and a 9.5. This is so I'm just gonna give it a 9, a rock solid 9. This is a great film, and Tobey Maguire, speaking of which, gives such a soulful, sad performance. Incredible, such a vulnerable performance. Wow, amazing. I mean, today I'm like beside myself about how great I thought he was. So I really enjoyed this film. It's aged really well. I'm with you. If you haven't seen it, after you finish this video,
where are you?
Yeah, after you finish this video, go watch it because it's really good. I promise. It's aged quite well, and I don't think Spider-Man: Homecoming has aged nearly as well as this film. No,
I don't think it can.
I enjoyed Homecoming. But it's not like this. This is like I said, this is operating on a higher level that I forgot about.
I think we've enjoyed, or at least I can say for me, I've enjoyed every Spider-Man movie with the exception of Spider-Man 2. I mean, the Amazing Spider-Man 2.
I didn't like any of the Amazing films. There were things in there I liked. I didn't really like it, but I could pick out things that I liked. So there haven't really been any atrocious Spider-Man films other than Amazing Spider-Man 2. So I agree with you.
Yeah. So so I gave Spider-Man 2 a 9.5. Devin gave Spider-Man 2 a 9. Go ahead and see this movie if you haven't seen it. This is basically Sam Raimi's
it's great. Okay. Again, don't be put off by the Spider-Man name. This is a real movie with real characters, real pathos. This is a good, solid film.
Yep. And that is our rewind review for Spider-Man 2.
Let's see who's behind the mask.
Hey everyone, we'd like to thank you for clicking on this video. Right now is the holiday season. We're packing up a lot of videos to get this out to you. So this one and we got Edward Scissorhands probably dropped by now. So an 8-Bit Christmas, please look at that, which was freaking hilarious. So
another solid film.
Go ahead and check those out. And if you want to stay up to date with all that happens on this channel, you gotta click the subscribe button. It's right there. All right. Click the subscribe button, click the notification bell to stay up to date with everything that we do right here on Mostly Wrong Opinions. All right. Again, I'm Tyrone. That is Devin. And if you did like our review on this film, which I hope you did, leave a thumbs up. Leave that thumbs up, or you can leave the thumbs down. Okay. It's still there. The button's still there. Whatever you do, it is your opinion. But just remember one thing. It's mostly wrong. Swing it to action later.